On today's episode of Almost Productive, wait, sorry, no, that's not right. On today's episode of Most Productive, hang on, hold on, that's wrong too. Sorry, this intro is riddled with typos. On today's episode of Almost Productive, we're discussing the importance of editing in reviews. Pretty meta, right? We'll cover everything from mistakes we've seen in the wild to tips for businesses of any size. But first, a word from our sponsor. Dude, you reek! Did you just finish at the gym?
Nah, bro. BO body spray.
BO body spray?
Introducing BO Body Spray, the only fragrance that says, I totally lifted. Probably.
You smell like a locker room.
Exactly. 3 spritzes and I'm basically an athlete. 0 reps required.
Available in scents like Cardio Cloud, Bench Press Breeze, and Hot Yoga Haze. BO Body Spray is scientifically engineered to mimic the exact aroma of a sweaty gym bag, with notes of post-spin class and faint regret.
Do I smell old treadmill belt?
Premium blend, baby.
BO Body Spray. Skip the set, smell the sweat.
Welcome to Almost Productive, a podcast mostly about marketing.
I'm Sean.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Addie. And we're all marketing professionals at New Boston Creative Group in Manhattan, Kansas. Yay! I'm excited to be back recording with you guys today. I feel like it's going to be a good one, and hopefully with our topic of editing, we'll make this a really smooth episode so producer Nick has a really easy time editing on the post. To kick us off today, we have one Would You Rather question, and then one question I stole from the Family Trips podcast with Seth and Josh Myers. So we'll start with that one. If you could go on a family vacation with any family, fictional or real, alive or dead, other than your own family, who would it be?
There's so many different ways to go that you could go with this because there's a lot of, I think, fun families. Interesting enough, I thought about animated ones. Like, what if I went on a trip with the Simpsons or the family from Bob's Burgers? That could be really fun.
That could be fun.
And totally different than say, I want to go with the, the Modern Family.
Oh, that would also be a good answer.
My first instinct was the Addams Family, but then I thought, no, I'd love to do the Roses from Schitt's Creek.
Oh, that's really
fantastic.
Good. Yeah.
I think it would be awful, but so much fun to watch.
Right. I think that's the key, right? Like all of these are inherently disastrous because that's the theme of these shows. Like it's not going to go well. I think the Addams Family was a fun choice. But it does seem like they try to kill a lot of people. You might have to worry about dying in that case.
You might not return.
Right.
Love it. Well, great answers.
Did you have an answer?
Yeah, the first one that popped into my head, which is less exciting, was the Gellers from Friends. I feel like Monica and Ross and their parents. So it'd be fun to just be a fly on the wall in their family dynamics. So I'm probably going to stick with that one.
Yeah, I also thought about Friends. I was like, that's not really a family, but they're kind of a family of their chosen family. Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, if that's an option, then absolutely that. I was just picking the Gellers because I would get 2 out of the 6 friends. But if I can get all 6 of them, I think that's
right, why
ideal.
Not?
Why not? So moving on to our Would You Rather question. Would you rather, on behalf of a client for both of these, publish a press release with a product name misspelled in the headline, or misspell a large donor's name on a ceremonial check? Both bad.
Are bad.
Both bad.
Both are bad.
I would say the ceremonial check. Because hopefully if they're a large donor, then they have a sense of humility and doing the right thing and humanity. Humility and humanity. And they might understand that mistake. And who really pays attention to the big checks anyway? Although who pays attention to press releases? But more people could pick up the press release and have that.
I was kind of leaning towards that as well because it felt like the press release maybe would have a longer lifespan of the mistake sort of haunting you where the check obviously in the moment is really bad, but hopefully you would move on, you would apologize and move on from that. And that guilt also, like, the donor's mad at me, probably not mad at the client. So that also helps save the client as well, versus the mess of the press release. Well, then the client's mad at me and the press release is messed up, versus, oh, well, maybe I just made this very rich person mad. I'm sorry.
I think you both sold me on that. My initial inclination was to go with press release because I was worried that the big donor would be so offended that they would never make a donation ever again and you're dead to us. But I think that you're right. If they're a large donor in the first place, they're probably a relatively okay person. So hopefully they'd have forgiveness in their hearts. Beautiful. I think that was the fastest set of intro questions that we've ever done. There was very little follow-up.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of like setup questions on like, oh, what do you mean by this? And what if we do this? What if instead of a press release, we change, like we're always doing?
I think it's a combination of my questions getting more specific and you both playing by the rules a little bit better. So good job.
Yeah, we're all
team.
just getting better.
Good job.
Yeah. Ain't that the goal? Getting better every day.
Getting better every day. Speaking of getting better, we are talking about the importance of editing and improving copy today, or what happens when potentially people don't take those steps. So I'd like to start by asking you both, do you have memorable examples of mistakes you've seen out in the wild that definitely could have been avoided if they'd been caught by an editor?
I have one that went out on a national news program. So like, the 6:30 national news. And it was a title for a segment they were doing about someone proposing marriage. But it was called the propsal. They left out the second O. So instead of proposal, it was propsal. And I felt very bad for whoever cut that segment because, it went out.
Yikes. Nationwide is especially humiliating, might be too strong of a word, but embarrassing for sure.
Yeah, there was a lesser one that was local news, where so local that they publish or broadcast the school lunch menu for the day. So stakes far lower, and instead of sweet potato fries, they posted about sweat potato fries.
That's amazing.
So Addie let us know that she was going to ask this question days ago. And there are times in your life when you're just going to let someone down immediately. Because if there's one thing, there's no way I'm catching. It's grammar, misspelling. That's not me. And I knew when she's like, "Hey, just think of things that you've seen in the wild." I'm like, I've never seen one.
I can't read.
No,
I don't know.
I can barely read. There's so many times where someone forwards, or like Erin, my wife, will show me like, "Oh, this," and it takes me so long to catch what's wrong. And so I knew I wasn't going to have much, but I did remember that I was a student worker at the vet school, and I did the cover of their annual conference. It was like a big deal that they print up, and somehow it made it through everybody's eyeballs into printing where I had misspelled Kansas. I had left off the middle S.
Oh,
and they caught it before the conference, but they had to reprint and restuff all the conference materials.
Honestly, they should have known that is not your responsibility. You are not an editor. You're not a copy guy. That's on them.
To be fair, they were not upset with me. It was more like, how did all five of us never notice that this was misspelled on the way to being printed? Because lots of people saw it and approved it. It made revisions. We changed graphics, but the misspelling was there the whole time.
It can
I feel
happen.
like, Sean, as a designer, though, you have probably seen kerning mistakes that the ones that I see are usually not fit for broadcast.
Right. The
But
other,
like kerning mistakes that make it look like a different word.
right.
So I feel like that, like you would catch that stuff.
Yeah, I'm
for
good
sure.
at that sort of thing. Or like when website URLs spell something inside of the word, where it's like, oh, you need to watch out because actually this is how you would read it. And funny enough, I'm also really good at catching inconsistencies with like code, which you would think would be sort of like that, but I don't know. Somehow my brain reads it as just characters and not trying to read it as words. And so I'm like, yeah, that T is capitalized there and not here. And that's why this is broken. That stuff I'm good at. But yeah, if you write out a sentence and there's like an extra the or an and, yeah, I ain't catching that.
That's more your domain. I think that makes sense. Mine, similar to Julie's second example, is also a school district. It was in my hometown, and they sent out a district-wide email to all the parents about school closures due to snow, and the L was missing from public in the subject line. So, yeah, Salina Pubic Schools was.
That's a classic.
It is a classic. And I think that we've had people in the office who have accidentally done the same thing. It doesn't get old. That's always going to be funny to me. I think that is hilarious.
I'm going to just keep following up on this for myself. I had to turn off autocorrect on my email because I would misspell so many words wrong. And my mail program was like, no, don't worry, I got you. I'll fix that. Except, obviously I'm misspelling them so badly. It's changing the word into not what I intended. And then I don't catch that. And then I send out the email where, it says completely random word in the middle of my sentence. And I have to be like, okay, we can't do this. So I had to turn it off so I can see the red squiggly line underneath the words and do it myself.
At least you got to the point where you recognized that and did something to change it. I think that in itself is growth.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah.
You're welcome. Oh, man. So, of course, these blunders don't have to be super embarrassing or extreme to still be detrimental for a business. For example, if you're a business that runs on trust, reliability, professionalism, etc., and you have a social media post or some website content with typos, it dents your reputation. So even small mistakes can make an impact on your audience. In fact, a study by Website Planet showed that the bounce rate on landing pages with punctuation and grammar mistakes was 85% higher than those that were error-free. So that's wild. 85% higher is crazy. And that's not to say that we're not human, but it definitely does reiterate the importance of building trust with your audience. So when a small mistake does pop up, they can be forgiven. Like the big check.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I would say New Boston has built-in guardrails against this because every bit of content that we put out there has a separate editorial review.
We are about to talk about that.
To hire us.
You led me right there, Julie. Yes, so every effort should be made to minimize slip-ups. And to that end, what tips do you guys have, or what are some guardrails that we have at New Boston to make sure that these don't happen?
Well. In addition to having a second pair of eyes, there are things that Addie and I do for content. Like if you're slogging away at something, try to give yourself some space, come back to it the next day, because your brain does kind of get mushy once you know what you're trying to say. So your brain automatically self-corrects. That's one thing. I've heard put things in a different font because then you have to struggle to read things aloud, because then you'll hear things differently from reading on the computer screen.
Do either of you use AI at all to help with this stuff?
Sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Again, because I know my weaknesses, I definitely am looking for any outside help to do it better. And if that's AI or if that's an actual person, depending on what it is.
Definitely.
I often disagree with AI, though, so I take that with a grain of salt.
Absolutely. When I typically use AI for this kind of stuff, I'll put in my blurb or excerpt from whatever and then tell it only give me typos or grammatical errors. And then it's not imposing its own style or will on the piece. It's only giving me what it thinks are typos or grammatical errors, which to Julie's point, even then might be incorrect. For example, AI uses the Oxford comma and we do not in our style guide. So it will tell you that that's an error even when for us it's not. That's correct. Julie, can you talk a little bit more about the importance of having one final review, one set of eyes, and kind of how we put that into practice at New Boston?
So we have that built in. Whoever's on the project will write a piece, and then it goes to our editor before we send it out to a client or an interview subject or what have you. It's a really good point of separation where the editor is not close to it. The editor has really strong grammar knowledge and style knowledge. So that is definitely a big help.
Perfect. Agree. Definitely agree. That was great. And now, kind of at large, why does editing matter? In part 2 of that question, when are you both more or less accepting and forgiving of errors?
Editing matters because crafting the right way to say a thing, especially in marketing, is very important. Like you're trying to communicate an idea, trying to sell something, and the way that you do that through the words, like all in each individual word matters. Like they're all important, especially when you are trying to get someone's attention, or if you're on a website and you're trying to do optimize for search engines. Then the words that you use are trying to match the words that people are typing in. So all of that is very important. People's attention spans are shorter. So making that all sort of work and be crafted perfectly for an audience is very important.
That was spoken like a content marketer, Sean. That was,
yeah. You're coming to our side. I think, too, it builds trust because it presents your thoughts, ideas in the best possible way. And that lets an audience know this organization knows what they're talking about.
That was my answer too, Julie.
See?
I think building trust, being reputable, that all matters. And then the second part of that, when are there examples of scenarios or businesses that you might be more or less forgiving if they had a typo, for example?
I'm more forgiving of smaller businesses who are clearly running their own like social media accounts. Like I can tell,
Absolutely.
it's a single person business and he or they are, they're doing the posting. And so it feels like it's coming from them. It feels very personal. And in that way, I'll forgive any, odd choices or typos because it feels like it's from their voice. Versus a larger organization feels like they should know better and they have, like you sort of talked about, a bigger reputation to uphold. And if I'm going to do business with them, I want to know that they've got, their stuff together.
Mine is more format. Like I would forgive typos in emails or chat quicker because I type so fast on those too. I send stuff out, especially in chat. It's like, oh, no, I just went back and read it. That's what I meant. And I try to put my own guardrails in place and read things like slow down, read this before you click send. But sometimes I just don't.
Agree. The first thing that popped into my head for this one was actually industry specific. So I would definitely be more forgiving of like an auto repair shop or an ice cream store or, things that maybe I don't need them to be. I mean, I want them to be reputable, obviously, but their ability to craft a sentence doesn't really impact their end product. But a company like a marketing company, unfortunately for us, means that the mistakes are more important. The mistakes are highlighted because you'll be doing this on behalf of other people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'd say all great answers.
Great job. Any other just general editing tips or questions from Sean before we wrap up with our joke?
Yeah, how do you do them words so good?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, old chap. I don't know why a British accent is smarter, but it is.
It is.
It is.
I don't
It's
know.
scientific.
Scientifically. I don't know that we need this joke now because that made me giggle, but here we go. And this is another opportunity to point out, bash on AI a little bit. I tried really hard to have ChatGPT give me a joke about editing or copy or marketing, and it had nothing. It had nothing. So if you want to be funny, definitely don't turn to AI, but a good old Google search did the job. So here we go. What do you call a typo on a tombstone?
A grave mistake?
A grave mistake.
Way to go. 10 out of
Amazing
10.
work.
Great joke. Great answer. Oh, wonderful.
Fantastic. Thank you for listening to this episode of Almost Productive. If you'd like to learn more about what we do at New Boston Creative Group, you can reach us at newbostoncreative.com. You can also follow us on social media at New Boston Creative on Instagram and New Boston Creative Group on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you like this episode, please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends. And if you didn't like the show, feel free to recommend us to your enemies. Tune in next time for more office shenanigans, thoughts on trending topics, and marketing adjacent insights. Until next time, we hope you have a productive day. Thanks, y'all. Yeah, perfect.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.